In this episode of Locked On Capitals, the Washington Capitals defeat the Montreal Canadiens by a score of 8-4. Yes, another decisive win. I know it's not against a team that's doing that well this year, but another great team win. A team tough game out there. Tom Wilson was bringing it. He got in a fight out there, and he was smashing everyone that was in his way. Now we only need a little bit more of that. We'll have complete game breakdown next.
Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome in to this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, and I want to thank you for making this your first listen or view of the day. My name is Dan Holme. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find Locked On Capitals on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And wow, what a game, and just what the doctor ordered to get the Capitals out of that losing funk that they were no doubtedly going through in their head as they lost that big game to Toronto just a few nights before. And it was a decisive win out there, wasn't it? Just a game that had Tom Wilson smashing everyone that was in his sight. That is what we love to see in Tom Wilson. And I don't know if he was listening to this podcast. He probably wasn't, but I mentioned that in an earlier podcast that that's what they needed was a physical presence out there, some Dale Hunter hockey, some physical presence out there. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And like I said, just bringing that pressure right off the bat. There were some cheap shots out there. We'll talk about that in a later part of the show. And even Nick Backstrom was getting involved in the action. But the name of the game tonight was the Capitals team was in tune. They were bringing that physical pressure, and they really kind of took advantage of their opportunity against this weak Canadians team. Just to start off the game, it was Vitek Vanecek in net, and I thought, well, that is a good way to start this game. Vitek Vanecek has been playing good this season. Also, they had Dimitri Orlov back in the lineup. If you know, Dimitri Orlov has missed the last few games, and his presence was felt. He's not just a defenseman, he is an offensive defenseman, and I think the Capitals sorely missed him while he was gone, so it was good to have Dimitri Orlov back in the game rather. And then the continued kind of tinkering with the lines. I know that Peter Laviolette still, I don't think, is 100% happy with his lines out there, and they had TJ Oshie on the top line at least to start the game. And like I say, I just think that he's looking for that magic. Or maybe he's just looking at line pairings against the Canadians. I'm not entirely sure, but it just seems like they should kind of pick a line pairing and stick with it. Vitek Vanecek was strong early, and he was tested a lot in this game. He made some of those windmill-style saves out there because, even though this is a Canadians team that is not that good this year, they still did bring the pressure, and we will talk about that as this episode goes along here. But one of my fears when I was watching this game is the Capitals would get stuck into what they call one of those trap games, one of the ones that you go in there and you're like, well, we're playing the Montreal Canadiens. They're one of the worst teams in the NHL this year. We should have no problem with them. But I will say that this Montreal Canadiens team put up a bigger fight, and I know it doesn't necessarily reflect it on the score sheet, but this Montreal Canadiens team put up a bigger fight than it appears. They had some younger players in there from their AHL affiliates. And those guys were looking to make a name for themselves against a Washington Capitals team that, let's face it, is headed for the playoffs. And what better way than to try to make a name for yourself with playing against the likes of Alex Ovechkin and Nick Backstrom, TJ Oshie, John Carlson, Tom Wilson, etc. And it just seemed like, they were out there trying to prove some things. And, like I say, give it to the Montreal Canadiens. They did put up a pretty good fight. Like I say, it doesn't necessarily show that on the score sheet, but they did play well. And one of the things that's interesting, too, and I got to give credit to the Montreal Canadiens fans, is that stadium or arena was pretty much looked to be sold out. And, that's a Montreal Canadiens team that is not playing that great this year. So for them to still get a decent turnout, that speaks volumes for Canadian hockey. That speaks volumes for the Montreal Canadiens in particular. But even if you look all across the Canada, if they're playing in Calgary or they're playing even in smaller cities like Winnipeg, I've been to a few games up in Winnipeg, and let me tell you, that team hasn't been that great for quite a few years, but they still have a great turnout. It's one of the smaller venues in the National Hockey League, but also subsequently one of the loudest. So it seems like the Canadians know what they're doing when it comes to hockey. What am I talking about? We'll take a look at the Florida Panthers, for example. Even though they're going to be in the playoffs, sometimes their arena is sparsely filled. Take a look at the Coyotes, for example. They're going to be playing in an arena that only holds about 5,000 people. So I don't know why the Canadians teams can figure it out and the American teams cannot. It just seems like they're a hardier group of hockey fans, and they love hockey up in Canada. I mean, that's the biggest thing that I noticed up there. So, and then the game to start it off here, Dowd gets a goal. It's 1-0 Caps on a deflection. And Dowd was bringing it out there. He was playing great, and he starts it off by getting a goal, 1-0 Caps. And then Pitlick gets a goal, but not so fast. It was called off. There was some kicking motion, and you could kind of tell just watching the game that he knew that it was a kicking motion there too. So he didn't really fight it or try to dispute it. He knew it was a bad goal. So then just moving forward into the second, Jake Evans, upper left corner, 1-1 tie game. And this is what I'm talking about. The Montreal Canadiens, they kind of started sneaking in a little bit, tied the game 1-1. Jake Evans, upper left corner. Montreal is applying the pressure. Vitek Vanecek is standing strong. And that was one of the things that I noticed out there with Vitek Vanecek is he seemed to be really dialed in and playing some great hockey. I know that there has been some inconsistency in net this season, but it's good to get some great play from the netminders that they do have in there. In this case, it's Vitek Vanecek. Ilya Samsonov has been playing pretty good as of late, but Vitek Vanecek definitely has him beat in that category. And then Backstrom gets a penalty for shoving behind the net. Backstrom was pissed, and you don't see that too often. And so, whatever was going on out on the ice was a big deal, because to see Nick Backstrom, one of the most calm, cool, collected guys out there, start shoving and almost ready to throw down, that whatever was being said or done on the ice warranted it, because Nick Backstrom, like I say, is an easygoing guy. And, I just, sometimes you wish that they all had microphones on so you could hear what they were saying. I've said that to some people, and they're like, no, trust me, you don't want to know what they're saying. Yeah, I kind of do. I think, I could handle it, and I would just want to hear it. I think it would add a whole new dimension to the game. Then Mantha gets a goal. It's 2-1 Capitals. From a down the ice pass by Dimitri Orlov. So that's what I'm talking about. Dimitri Orlov's presence was already felt in this game, his first game back. And, he is a defensive player by title, but I mean, I think that Dimitri Orlov, if it was called upon, could almost play as a forward. He's just that kind of player. He has a lot of depth to his game. And, that's what I'm saying. He is one of those true, what they call offensive defensemen. And he proved that there. Mantha's goal, another goal, 34 seconds later, Montreal coughs up the puck. So Anthony Mantha is like one of those players I talked about where people said, where can you draw lines from where the Washington Capitals season turned around? And I've said here for a while, it was the return of Anthony Mantha. And just he's proving it again here tonight by getting 2 goals. He gets 2 goals within 34 seconds of each other. And, like I say, it's not against a really great opponent, but nonetheless, they are an NHL team with some big name players on there. So for Mantha to do that, that was great for the Capitals. And he was one of the players, I think, that really kind of turned around the fortune of this Washington Capitals team. Mantha has now recorded 15 points, 7 goals, 8 assists in his last 18 games. And then it was Petrie to Paulini goal, 3-2 Caps. So it was just one of those games where there was a lot of scoring on both sides. It just turns out in this case that the Washington Capitals played a little bit better game. They applied more pressure out there, and that's what was needed because that, like I say, that Montreal Canadiens team on paper didn't look like they would be much of a team. Not much to contend with, but as it turned out, they actually had some snarl to their game. All right, after the break here, we are going to continue to break down this game, this great, victorious game that the Washington Capitals played. It was a game that saw a lot of offensive power, and it was one to kind of get them off the schneid and off feeling like that, dejected that they lost that huge game against Toronto, and they need to brush off their shoulders because they are headed out west, and we will talk about that after the break here. Our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I wanted more energy and wanted a supplement that actually tastes great. I wanted to see what the hype was about. Now, I've been on it for about a month. It doesn't taste like it's super healthy. It has kind of a mild tropical taste that I actually look forward to taking each morning. So, what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. I personally use it because I have 2 young babies at home and I could use that extra energy. So here's some facts on it. It's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy free, or gluten free, contains less than 1 gram of sugar, no GMOs, no nasty chemicals or artificial anything, while still tasting good. It supports better sleep and recovery, supports mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens uses the best products based on the latest science with constant product iterations and third-party testing. The importance of a multivitamin. Tons of people take some kind of multivitamin, and it's important to choose one with high-quality ingredients that your body will actually absorb. AG1 is a small micro habit with big benefits. It's the one thing you can do every single day to take care of yourself. Your subscription comes with a year's supply of vitamin D, which is so important in these winter months as we head into the spring here. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's cheaper than getting all different supplements yourself. You're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance. So, to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. So that's what it's about in the beginning of this year. I know we're into April here, but it's about eating healthy, and it's not too late, to just keep eating the right way. I know sometimes it's easy. Like I made a New Year's resolution. I don't need to eat healthy. We'll continue to eat healthy with Athletic Greens. Thank you for making Locked On Capitals your first listen. For your next listen, check out Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NHL game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. All right, so continuing to this segment, we are going to talk about the game against Montreal on Saturday. And like I say, it was one of those games that I think that people thought they were just going to be able to kind of just sleep their way through and just really take advantage of this Canadians team. Not necessarily the case. They had brought a physical game, but where did the Capitals benefit? They also brought that big physical game. Tom Wilson was pissed off, and he was throwing his weight around out there. This is what I've been talking about the entire season. Everyone talked about before the season started that this Washington Capitals team is a big team. Expect them to be a big physical team. They haven't really been that this year. I know that there's been some fisticuffs and some brush ups in the corner, but this is not the Washington Capitals team that I think most people expected. I think they thought more Tom Wilson slamming people into the boards. As much as people say they hate Tom Wilson acting that way, that's what they expect out of him. And in some cases, that's what the Washington Capitals need. Now, what they don't need out of Tom Wilson is they don't need him to draw stupid penalties, do stupid things to get him suspended. We need Tom Wilson out on the ice. As they mentioned in the broadcast tonight, and have mentioned, there's no other team, or there's of the 31 other teams other than the Capitals out there, everyone would die to have a Tom Wilson on their team. He's truly a four-leaf clover out there that just you can't find anywhere. He's not only does he have a big frame, he's a great fighter, but he has a great goal-scoring touch with great leadership abilities. That's right. I do see Tom Wilson as being the next captain of the Washington Capitals. I don't really think there's any question about it. So whenever Alex Ovechkin plans on hanging up the skates for the NHL, I heard he might go over to the KHL and play one final season. Anyway, I think that you can expect to see Tom Wilson be your future captain of the Washington Capitals. It only makes sense. Like I say, he's had a great mentor in the form of Alex Ovechkin, and it only seems like a great fit. And that's what I'm talking about in this game. A tough game, even though Tom Wilson was getting punched in the back. When he couldn't really defend himself, John Carlson stepped in and saved his butt, because let's be honest with you, what kind of chicken fill in the blank is that to punch Tom Wilson in the back when you know that he couldn't defend himself? That is just cheap, and I think that they knew that if Tom Wilson turned around, he would beat the crap out of this guy. I have to keep it clean. This is a family podcast, so I just think, like I say, I think that was a cheap move on the Canadians' part, because, I mean, Tom Wilson was lit up, and I think that there was a lot of chirping going on the ice, because Tom Wilson seemed to be very aggressive out there tonight. And whatever the case may be, that's what I want to see more out of him. But what a chicken move for Montreal to just punch him in the back then. So I'm just going to continue where I left off on the game breakdown here. Tom Wilson, just all that got me all pissed off and worked up here. Mantha has now recorded 15 points, 7 goals, 8 assists in his last 18 games. So Mantha, it's awesome. A lot of people are excited to come see me play. It was good to see family and friends yesterday, and then just happy to put a performance for them tonight. So good for Anthony Mantha that he was actually able to have family and friends there. That's always nice, if you can make it to the NHL, just to tell your family, hey, look at me. I'm playing in Montreal. I'm doing this really great job. Come watch me play. He's got a sister that's involved in hockey. Just a great story all around. So then Kuzi to Ovi goal. It's 4-2 Caps. And that is Ovi's 47th goal of the season and number 777. So I do definitely think that Alex Ovechkin getting 50 goals is very possible. I would be very surprised if he didn't get 50 goals at this point. We still have a few weeks of hockey left here, a couple of weeks anyway, of the regular season. So I definitely do think that Alex Ovechkin will reach his goal. And then when I was talking about Wilson bringing that big physical game, I like Anderson did a gutless thing by punching Tom Wilson from behind. And, I just mentioned that, but, just to kind of talk about that again, totally a gutless thing to do by Anderson to punch this guy in his back. Why don't you step up toe-to-toe to Tom Wilson and see if you want to fight him? And then be a man enough to fight him. Don't try punching him when his arms were held and his back was to you. Just a totally chicken move. All right, then to start the third, Pitlick gets a goal of his second goal of the night. It's 4-3 Caps. And this was the moment that I thought, here we go. Montreal is creeping back into this game. Are the Capitals going to end up losing this game to the lowly Montreal Canadiens? And just as a bit of context, I don't think that the Montreal Canadiens team is a poor team overall. I just think that for whatever reason, poor coaching, and they lost a bunch of key players, that this current iteration of the team is not very good. Look at the standings. You really can't debate it. I know that the Montreal Canadiens have a pedigree of doing well, but this is not their year. So then Hathaway gets a goal from the front. It's 5-3 Caps. Dimitri Orlov with a goal from the center. The Caps really missed him on ice. This is what I'm talking about. Dimitri Orlov stepping up defensively. He's also stepping up, getting assists, and also stepping up by getting goals. And Dimitri Orlov, like I say, kind of an unsung hero. And from listening to Alan May talk, one of the tougher guys out on the team, just kind of looking at Dimitri Orlov, I guess he doesn't look like he's that big of a player, but Alan May said that he saw him in the locker room and he has legs like tree trunks. So just a really stacked guy. And Dimitri Orlov brings a big physical game out there. And I think that he does a lot of intangibles. Scoring goals, that's noticeable, but just his defensive play is really what the Caps missed in his absence. With an assist on the Capitals' seventh goal, Dimitri Orlov earned his 4th point, 1 goal, 3 assists of the game, marking a new single-game career high. It also marks Orlov's 34th point of the season, setting a new single-season career high. Previously, 6 goals, 27 assists, 33 points in the 16-17 series. So big up on Dimitri Orlov, just really stepping up and playing great hockey. Like I say, the Capitals really missed him out on the ice, and we hope that he can stay healthy because as we make the push for the playoffs, that is what we need. And we'll talk about the playoffs in the conclusion of this game. But first, BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So talking about doing healthy things earlier, I was talking about athletic greens. Another healthy thing you can do is Built Bar. Now, Built Bars are delicious and they're a lot more nutritious than a lot of the other garbage that's out there. This is the time of year that I've pretty much given up on all my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy. They're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors: yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They're all so good. These are going to be your new favorite. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, the Puffs too. Real chocolate, 100%. Low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bars with these. They are better. A typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. Ouch. Go to Built.com and scroll down to the macros chart. You'll be blown away. High protein, low cal, high fiber, low carb. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. So go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right. So just to wrap up this show here in the final segment here, we are going to talk. We're just going to finish up on the game breakdown and then talk about what's ahead for the Washington Capitals. So then Schultz gets a goal, 7-3. Justin Schultz scores on a power play to extend the Capitals' lead to 7-3. Schultz has recorded 4 points, 1 goal, 3 assists over the last 3 games. Suzuki blocker side then gets a goal, 7-4. TJ Oshie scores on the power play to make the score 8-4. It marks Oshie's 10th goal of the season and his 4th power play goal. Oshie's 60 power play goals since joining Washington in the 15-16 season is the second most on the team during that span, which was Alex Ovechkin, who had 108. So just a real great performance from this team. And I think that it was just what the doctor ordered because, like I say, after that big loss to Toronto, they lost 3-7, just to get that mental boost to play a team that maybe isn't playing that great is what the doctor ordered, because next next week, they play, or this week, excuse me, as I record this, they are going to be playing Colorado, the Vegas Golden Knights, and Arizona. So the Capitals have got to have their A game. Washington scored 2 power play goals while killing off both Montreal power plays. Since March 1st, the Capitals have converted on 28.8 of their power plays, 19 of 66, and have killed off 86.2 of their penalties, 50 of 58, ranking 4th and 3rd, respectively, in the NHL. Johan Larsson extended his point streak to 3 games, 1 goal, 3 assists. With an assist against Montreal, Larsson has recorded 5 points, 1 goal, 4 assists in 7 games with Washington since being acquired on March 21st. So some of those intangibles that you talk about, not always glitzy and glamoury, but Johan Larsson doing great things and a good acquisition for the Capitals. The Capitals improved to 23-8-5 on the road this season, the highest road points percentage, .708 in the NHL. So kind of an atypical season for the Capitals. Generally, they play better at home, as do most teams play better at home. But home cooking is not what the Washington Capitals are looking for this year. For whatever reason, they are feasting on these road games, and by and large, they are playing well, as you saw tonight, and they will need to continue to do that as they play Colorado on Monday, who is a star-studded team. I know that they're not a very, what shall we say, sexy team. You don't hear a lot of talk about the Avalanche. I mean, I knew that they have McKinnon and some big players out there, but it's just not a team that you hear a whole lot about. But they lead the league in points. So, I mean, and they're first in their division. So you know that they're a good team, and the Capitals are going to have to bring it. Then they play the Vegas Golden Knights on Wednesday. And that is going to be a game that's going to be a tough one, like I've talked about before. The Vegas Golden Knights, even though a lot of those players aren't on the team anymore, or coaches for that matter, the fan base is the same. And some of the players that remain have not forgot the 28 Stanley Cup Washington Capitals as they defeated them. And I think there's some bad blood in a rivalry that isn't something that's engaged in quite as often as they are a West Coast team or a Western United States team, shall we say. So, but I do think that will be a physical game. I know they don't have Ryan Reeves or anything out there anymore, but I still think that it'll be a big physical game out there, and the Capitals are going to have their work cut out for them, so they'll have to be ready for that one. They conclude the trip on Friday as they play the Arizona Coyotes, a team that is kind of looking for an identity. They play in an arena next year with only 5,000 people. That kind of is a callback to what I was talking about in the beginning of the show. How is it that a team as poor as the Montreal Canadiens can still fill a huge coliseum that they have in Montreal, even though their team is poor? So I think that, the NHL needs to do some soul searching. Why are they trying so hard to make hockey in Arizona work? That is the question. What do they have some, scandalous pictures of someone or something that they have to keep a team in Arizona? I'm not really sure why they're trying so hard to make hockey work in Arizona. It just doesn't, it really baffles my mind. And, they weren't even able to pay the mortgage on their old facility or arena that they played in. It's just like all the writing is on the walls to move on from Arizona. It was an experiment that did not work. And that was another place, that they don't get a real great turnout. So I think that it's going to be kind of demoralizing for NHL players to play. You've played hard your whole life, and then to play in a place that is a college arena. It's for the Sun Devils that are down there. So they're going to be playing in there on pretty much bleacher seats with 5,000 people. It's going to be a tough thing for that Arizona Coyotes team. I don't know if I worked my whole life to get into the NHL, how I would take to that, because, like I say, you've worked your whole life to get there, and then just to kind of have that, I don't know. There's so many cities out there that would like to have a hockey team. Houston, I hear mentioned quite often. I don't know, would hockey, another hockey team in Texas work? I'm not entirely sure, but I know that the Dallas Stars get a pretty good turnout, and their season, they're playing pretty well, and they get a decent turnout of the games I watch. It seems like it's pretty well attended. So Houston seems to do a pretty good job. Also, what is the other one? The Quebec Nordiques. I've heard, that why don't we bring back a team there? But every time I hear that, I'm like, well, why didn't it work the first time? Why is it going to work the second time? I hear that quite often, and I'm not really sure why it would work. What are they going to talk about next? We need hockey back in Atlanta. The Thrashers. We miss the Thrashers. I don't really think that that's the case. There's certain cities around the United States that are kind of surprising to me. Arizona has a hockey team, but let's say a city like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, doesn't have one. It just seems like they have big sports teams there. You look at the Brewers, you look at the Packers. It only seems to fit like a hand in glove that they would have an NHL team. I know they have the Milwaukee Admirals, which is an AHL affiliate of the Predators, but I think that, teams like that, just as an example, I know that if you go way back, they used to have a team in Kansas City. I think that Kansas City would also be a great team. I think they were the Kansas City Scouts, if memory serves. Um, so I think that there are some other cities around the United States that would serve well to have a hockey team. And why Arizona? And why Houston, for that matter? Really, I mean, maybe I'm totally wrong with it, but even if you look at Florida, hockey doesn't work that well in Florida. I know it works well in Tampa Bay. They've won I don't know how many. They've won a few Stanley Cups anyway. And the Florida Panthers are playing well, but that's another. I mean, as of late, it seems like there's more people showing up at the games, but for a line share of the season, it seemed like that was sparsely attended as well. So I just think that, like I say, this all ties back to my main point that the NHL should do some soul searching and maybe think about relocating some teams that just aren't working. Look at Arizona. All arrows point to move this team. And, if anyone from Arizona is listening, hit me up at DanCaps218 and give me the lowdown on why hockey works in Arizona. Because to me, it doesn't make sense. I suppose people, and if you wanted to be argumentative, would say, well, why does it work in Vegas? They're both desert climates. Because it's the gambling mecca. That's what I would tell you why it works out there. And if their team went downhill and they stopped winning games, I would probably say the same thing for them. But anyway, I think that they should kind of move some of these teams around where they're just not working. There's some cities in the NHL where it just doesn't work, and why keep trying to beat a dead horse? All right, this has been Locked On Capitals for today. Once again, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I'm starting to get my voice back a little bit, and that's good because it was kind of hard to be hoarse as I do these podcasts. I muscled through and did it anyway, but it feels so much better. And thanks from the support from all of you that reached out. It's very encouraging. And I do love doing these podcasts for you. And I look forward to the playoffs ahead. You can expect a lot more podcasts, maybe even some live ones after the games. I want to get all in on this. Let's get excited about this team. So, I'm going to try to do my best on doing that. I have 2 babies at home under the age of 2 years old, so sometimes that can pose some challenges. I work a full-time job and I have 2 young children, and I do this podcast 5 nights a week, so sometimes it's burning a candle on both ends, but I will persevere because I love doing this podcast. I did podcasting before this, and this has just been a great opportunity, and I'm so thankful to Locked On for this opportunity. Anyway, I don't mean to keep you any longer. This has been Locked On Capitals. I will talk to you guys again tomorrow.